Good morning, children. Welcome to the fifth period of ninth standard. So, in the last four classes, we have studied the point related to the different activities related to the history. So, in the fifth period of this online classes, we are going to study the point related to the medieval India and the political transition, which already we have started in the fourth period. So, in the last period, we have seen the points related to the Rajput dynasties ruled in India. These are the small dynasties ruled in India. The many different types of dynasties were ruled. We have studied in the last class. First one, Gurujara Pratiharas. Second, Garhwalas. Third, Paramarasas. Fourth, Solankis. And fifth, at the last end, we have studied the Chandelas. But another important dynasty which is related to the Rajput dynasty was that is Chauhanas. So, which one? The Chauhanas dynasty was becoming a very prominent or a important dynasty which is to be going called as the powerful dynasty in the Rajput dynasties. Now, this Chavana dynasty is to be called as the dynasty started in the 17th century. It means it was visible. We are going to see in the 7th century, but again we are going to see it was ruled for up to the 12th century. Rise of this Chavana dynasty we are going to see in the 7th century itself. But after some time, it means it was rise in the 7th century, but also we are going to see it was entered toward the, or it become famous in the 12th century. That we are going to see the main important point related to the Chavana dynasty. And the people who belongs to this dynasty, they have started this dynasty in the region of Ajmer region. You know the Ajmer place which is in the Rajasthan. So this dynasty was started in the Ajmer of Rajasthan region. Rajasthan region. So, and the main persons who ruled toward this dynasty were the persons who become famous ruler by ruling this dynasty were the persons like Ajaya Raja, Vigraraja, and Vigraraja fourth, and the next was Prithviraj third. So these are the important persons we are going to see who are to be going to be called as the prominent rulers for this dynasty. Many other rulers have ruled for the Chavanas, but these three become very prominent ruler for this dynasty. Among these, we are going to see the Prithviraj third or Prithviraj Chauhan, who is to be called as the one of the prominent or the famous ruler for this dynasty. Why? Because in the 12th century, the Prithviraj Chauhan, known for his bravery, defeated. His bravery defeat, or he made lot of conflict with the other kings. He has defeated the many kings. That's why this person is going to be called as a very famous person for this dynasty in the 12th century. So, Chandelas of Bundelkhand against and the Maheba and Kalinjar were gained by this person by getting occupation toward this area. It means he has defeated toward the Bundelkhands, that the were ruling by the Chandelas, and Maheba and the Kalinjar place were also came under the control of this Prithviraj. And Prithviraj Chauhan also defeated one of the foreign ambassador or a foreign ruler who entered toward the India by the name Muhammad Ghori at the place of Tehran. At the place of Tehran, this Muhammad Ghori was defeated from the Muhammad Ghori was defeated from the whom? Prithviraj Chauhan. Prithviraj Chauhan. So by this way, we are going to see the power, the rise of the power of Prithviraj Chauhan was very different in the 12th century. So that's why this person is to be going to be called as a powerful person for this dynasty. And this Prithviraj Chauhan has started to extend his kingdom towards the Sindh region, because earlier this Ghori's aim was to extend his kingdom from Ghor to toward the Sindh region. Now this person has defeated this person Muhammad Ghori, and that came under the control of Prithviraj Chauhan. Muhammad Ghori was who was severely wounded in this battle. In the Terrain battle, this Muhammad Ghori became a very he was wounded with the war. So, at last, led another attack towards Delhi in the following years. We are going to see with this Ghor dynasty. He defeated the Prithviraj Chauhan at Taran again in the same place at the Taran. So once we have seen the Taran place was made become important. Prithviraj Chauhan has defeated to the Ghori. But after later some time, when he was wounded in the first war, later some time we are going to see again this Muhammad Ghori has made attack toward the Prithviraj Chauhan, and again he has defeated in the same place at the Taran to the Prithviraj Chauhan. So by this way, this Prithviraj Chauhan has become very weak in front of the Ghori. So this Prithviraj is an embodiment of a Rajput valor and bravery person, but unable to control, unable to continue the Chauhan dynasty for a long period in his time. So it came under the control of the Ghor dynasty, because the aim of the Ghori was to get rule over toward the Sindh region. So that time, after the end of the Chavana dynasty, every time we are in the history, we are going to get the idea related to the some contributions given by the different dynasties. Some contributions were given by the kings at their period. So in this topic, we are going to study the contributions given by the Rajput dynasty. So what kind of contributions were given by the this dynasty? Contributions made by the Rajputs. So very part we are going to see the contributions from the kingdoms. So what are the contributions made by the this Rajput dynasty towards that area ruled by themselves? So many times we are going to see every king was going to get some changes in the administration. So these people also have made some changes in the administration. So that time we are going to see first point is Rajput king themselves were the scholars. The people who belongs to this ancient period, who have ruled to this area, they themselves were the scholars. They have written the literary works by the king themselves, the king itself. So we can take the example, who are the kings, who are the scholars for this period. The kings like Bhoja and the Munja. Bhoja and the Munja has given some literary works in this period, who were going to be called as the king for the Rajput dynasties. So already we heard the names of Bhoja, Munja. These are the kings ruled for the dynasties, and they were themselves were the writers. They are given the literary works to this period. Now Next point we are going to learn was the contributions related to the Rajput kings were these kings have presented many types of poet in their court. They have presented the many types of poets in their court itself. You can take to the example of Munja. The king Munja had poets by the name Padmagupta and the Halayuddha. These two people are at the period of Munja, who was ruling for the Rajput dynasty. They were the poets who were working under the court of Munja, and they have given a lot of literary works to the this period when Munja was ruling. But later, rather than this, in the Bhoja's period also, at the time of King Bhoja, who was the ruler for the this dynasty, we are going to see he has given his chance for the Jain scholars to patronize to extend their writings in this period. In Bhoja's period, some Jain scholars also we are going to see who presented, who written some books related to the his kingdom. And the Shanti Sena Prabhachandra Suri and the Ganapala during this period we are going to see who are become the famous scholars in this period. So we can come to the point of what kind of contributions given, what kind of literary works they are presented in this period. So the poetic works made in this period where we can take one or two examples related to this period. So we can take the example of Jayadeva, who was a poet. He has given the poetic contribution by the name Gita Govinda. Gita Govinda was written by Jayadeva in this period, and Bhairavi, so Bhairavi was the poet who has written the poet by the name Kirtana Arjuniya. Kirtana Arjuniya. The second poet written by the Bhairavis, and the Mahendra Palas. Mahendra Pala were also the king. He has given the poetry by the name Kavya Mimamse. Kavya Mimamsa was written by the Mahendra Pala. So these are the some poetic works we are going to see given by the Rajput kings. The another point we are going to see in this period was we are going to see the writings of dramas. Writings of dramas. The dramas like Rajashekaras. Rajashekaras, one of the this Rajashekara has written one of the drama by the name Bala Ramayana. Bala Ramayana was written by this person, and the another person Karpura Manjari. This Karpura Manjari was also written by the Rajashekara itself. And the next person by the name Bhavabhutis. Bhavabhutis have written Mahavira Charita Tarangini. Mahavira Charita and the Uttara Ramacharita. These two were written by the Bhavabhuti. Bhavabhuti has written the dramas by the name Mahavira Charitra and the Uttara Ramacharitra. These are two writings are the historical works given by this person. And the next historical works like Kalana's Raja Tarangini. Kalana has written the Raja Tarangini, Charita, some are the and Jainikas. Jainikas Prithviraja Vijaya. Prithviraja Vijaya and Hemachandra's Kumarapala Charitra are some important works we are going to see in the period of Rajput dynasty ruled in this ancient period. So the works next, the Prithviraj Chauhan by Chan Bardhi and the Bhoja Prabhada by Ballala are the noted biographies. You know the biography. These are the biographies were given by the Rajput rulers. They have written themselves about himself. The educational development also we are going to see in this period with the different languages. The languages used in this period were Gujarati, Rajasthani and the Hindi languages. And the institution developed in this period we are going to see is Nalanda, Kashi, Vikramans, Vikramashila and Ujjaini are the important places there we are finding the educational development supported by the Rajput kings. So, these people have not only given the importance to the poetry, these people have not given the importance to the dramas, but also they have given to the importance of biographics, autobiographics, and also these Rajput kings has given the importance for the construction of a new type of architectures or the development of art and architectures by building the new forts in this period. That also we are going to see in this topic. So, what type of forts were developed in this Rajput period? You can go toward the page number 11. There we are going to see one of the important place developed in this period was Mount Abu Basadi. The picture was given in your textbook. So, the Rajput kings has constructed the spacious forts, forts in Chittor, Mandu, Ranthambore, Jodhpur, Gwalior and northern part of India. So it means they were ruling in the northwestern part of India itself. So that side we are going to see the development of new forts are also constructed in the period of this Rajput dynasty. So then rather than this they have built some many palaces. You know the palace. So they built the palaces in Jaipur, Gwalior and also built in the Udaipur, Dilwar. So in Dilwar we are going to see the temple and Vimala temple and the Luna Vasal temples were also built at on the Mount Abu in the period of Rajput king. All these were beautiful and known for the artistic architectures we are going to see which were constructed in the period of Rajput dynasties. So, the Chandelas have also given the contributions in this period. The Chandelas built the Khandrayat temple in the Khajuraho. Khajuraho and Shiva and the Vishnu temples were more in number among the temples built during this region or this period. The temples related to the Shiva and the Vishnu we are going to see more constructed in this period. They also encourage the paintings after the construction of the new forts in this period. So, what kind of encouragement given towards the paintings in this period where the paintings of styles of this period is classified into Rajasthani paintings and the style of Pahari painting styles. One side we are going to see the Rajasthani style of painting, Rajasthani style, and one side we are going to see the Pahari type of paintings developed in this period. So these Rajasthani style paintings can be seen in the places like Mewar, Bukaner, Jodhpur, Jaisalmer and the Bunni places. But these Pahari type of painting styles we can be seen in the Kasoli, Jammu and the Garhwal places. You know, the Garhwal dynasty was ruled. So these are the important things we are going to see, the contributions given or presented by the Rajput dynasties. Like this way, Rajput has become a special dynasty in the history of India. It has taken a special place in the history of India in this period. So, now next point we are going to learn in this topic related to the arrival of Turks. After these small kingdoms, we are going to see the next point is the arrival of the Turks. So it means the Turks have arrived toward the India in this period after the end of the Chavana dynasty. They have started to move toward the India in the period of when these people are ruling in India. The Rajputs were ruling in India. So now Rajput dynasty came to be an end. Now we are going to see the next point is the arrival of Turks. So arrival of Turks. So arrival of Turks means since from the period of 8th century itself, we are going to see these people who belongs to the which religion? Islam religion, who started to get coming toward the making attacks toward the Sindh region, because this Sindh region was ruling by Rajputs. So that time many attacks were made by these Turks to get the occupation of this area under their control. But the establishment of Turks rule were started by a different person have failed to get achievement, to get the success in their life when they have started from the 8th century. But at the end we are going to see, due to the arrival of some new kings or the new persons, we are going to see the attack was made and the development of a new kingdom was started in the place of Afghanistan, because the Sindh region was in between the Afghanistan and the India. So that time in this Sindh region, one of the important person who belongs to the Mongolia category, the part of Asian continent. So from the Mongolia, he came toward the Afghanistan and there he developed a new kingdom. This person was accepted as the Islam religion and the person name was Altaf Zin. So this Altaf Din has developed a new kingdom. He established a independent state in the year of 1963. Who? This Altaf Din. So this Altaf Din has established in the 1963 as a independent state by himself, who belongs to the Mongolian category, and he is to be called as the person belongs to the tribe community. Which community? He belongs to the tribe community, and this person has developed a new independent state at the place by the name Ghazni. Ghazni in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan. So, in this Afghanistan place, he has developed the new state at the place of occupying the Ghazni. Actually, he belongs to the Mongolia, which is the part of Asian continent. So, after this development, we are going to see there was the battles were started in between the Turks The Turks people are belongs to the European countries. There we are finding the conflicts were started in between the Arabs after the entry of this Al-Tabjin. So he entered in the 963. After that, we are going to see the conflict were started between the Turks and the Rajput. It is started from the long period. So you can get the details related to some persons who have made attack toward the Rajputs when they were ruling in India before the 12th century. So when the arrival of this person, establishment of a new kingdom, so after this Al-Tabjin, we are going to see the next person who came to be power to get rule over this Ghazni area was. That we are going to call as the person by the name Muhammad Ghazni. After the establishment of this region by the Al-Tabjin, the next person we are going to see who belongs to the this category, Mongolia category. The next person was Muhammad Ghazni. Muhammad Ghazni. So this Muhammad Ghazni is to be called as the one of the person after the who came to power in 999 century after the Al-Tabjin. After the Al-Tabjin, and this Muhammad Ghazni invaded the one of the Indian temple by the name Somanath temple for the 17 times. Somanatha temple for 17 times. So, the important temple was there. So, this Somanatha temple was invaded by this person. The actual aim of this Muhammad Ghazni was to get the destroy of the temples. Every time he coming and taking the pillar of this Somnath temple, that time this Somnath temple was going to be called as the one of the golden temple for the Indian culture or India. So that time he invaded at the period of Rajput kingdom for 17 times. And this Muhammad Ghazni's aim was not to rule in India, not to get the occupation of the land of India, but his aim was to take the property of India toward the Turks. So that time he invaded 17 times, and Muhammad succeeded in the invasion due to the political and the military weaknesses of the Rajput. Muhammad invaded 17 times and carried away the enormous amount of golden armaments, which the wealth of the toward the Ghazni. So that time, that at the end of the 12th century we are finding as the in between the this 10th century we are going to see when he invaded towards India, that time Rajput kingdom was becoming very weak, and due to the weakness become weak, and due to this weakness this Muhammad Ghazni has invaded many times towards India. He has taken the golden ornaments from the Indian land by destroying the Somanatha temple, and he get thrown this ornament toward the Ghazni place. So it means he made only the occupation of the wealth. Though he did not build any kind of empire in India, but he invaded many times and he showed the way to the future Turks to come toward the India. He has given the direction to the future Turks to come towards India, invade India and get an opportunity. So by this way we are going to see this person who was fighting with the Rajput that time, who had become weak with the internal rivalries also got displayed. But after its 17th visit, we are not going to see this person visited toward the India. So he got lot of ornaments. He got lot of economic wealth to rule there itself. So after this person, the next person from the Turk who given the direction to the next person, that person name we are going to call, he was ruled for India, that is Muhammad Ghori. Now this Muhammad Ghori has established a new dynasty in India uh, and sorry in Afghanistan, and he started to move toward the India, that we are going to see in the next period. So up to the point of arrival of Turks to the Muhammad Ghazni, if you are having any doubts, you can call me on my number. So we'll conclude the point related to this topic. I will continue in the next class. Thank you.